Hey guys, today we're going to look at the last lesson in chapter 14, which is on some more problems with binomial probabilities. And I'm going to show you some calculator shortcuts that are going to make your work a lot easier when you're doing these binomial probability problems. So if you don't already have a graphing calculator handy, please pause the video and get one. So that one way, as you're working through the problems along with the video, you can be trying out the calculator shortcuts so you know how they work. All right, we learned yesterday that the formula for calculating binomial probabilities looks like this. So we have the probability that x equals k, where k is the number of successes we're trying to find the probability of. And then remember, there are a couple of parts to this formula. This first part here is a combination, and that kind of accounts for all the different ways that we can get the number of successes that we're looking for. So all the different orders that are possible. P is the probability of success. 1 minus P is the probability of failure. And then we've got these exponents here, which give us the number of successes and the number of failures. So that formula is not super difficult to use, but it is a little bit time consuming, especially when you are working with scenarios where you are looking for the probability of something happening or something else. And so the Texas Instrument graphing calculators that we use have a shortcut for binomial probabilities, and that's located in one of the menus. And I'll show you how to access that in just a second. But basically, you're going to use the second key, which is the orange one in the top corner, and you're looking for the vars menu. And then you're going to choose this function 0, which says binom PDF. And you don't really need to know what that abbreviation stands for, but then you're going to put in 3 numbers after this. And the 3 numbers that you're going to type in there are the parameters that are defined by your problem. So we'll do an example, and that will become pretty clear in just a second. All right, so let's take a look at example 1. We actually did this example in lesson 14.7, and we did it by hand using the formula. So now we want to use the calculator shortcut. So in the 2016 season, Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints completed 70% of his passes. If Brees attempts 5 passes, what is the probability he will complete 3 of them? We define success as completing a pass. N is the number of trials, which in this case is 5. P is the probability of success, which in this case is 0.7. And then K would be 3, because we are looking for the probability that he has 3 successes. All right, now what you're going to do is go ahead and grab your calculator, and you want to go into that distribution menu. So you're going to hit the second key, and then you're going to hit the vars button, which is right there on your calculator next to clear. So you have to hit second vars. And when you do that, you will see this menu appear on your calculator. Now you want to scroll down, and on most of the calculators, the function you're looking for is the 10th one, which is labeled with a 0. So it might be different on yours. Just make sure you're choosing the one that says binom PDF. So you're going to select that. And then on my calculators, this is what you would type in. So you would type in 5, comma, 0.7, comma, 3, and then close the parentheses. The comma, in case you've never used it, is right above the 7. So the button directly above the 7 is where you'd access the comma. And if you hit enter, it will calculate that probability for you, and we get 0.3087. So what I would recommend that you write down in your notes is the calculator notation. So later on, when you go back and look at your notes, you'll remember what you typed in to get that answer. So we'll do binom PDF, and remember it has to go N, P, K in that order. And that's why in your notes I had you kind of define them in that order before we even started doing the calculations. Right, so that gives us 0.3087. All right, so much quicker than using the formula. So we're going to focus on this calculator shortcut today. By the way, I know that some of you don't have a graphing calculator of your own at home, and so I linked for you in the agenda this week an online binomial calculator. So if you open up the agenda, the link is right there. And when you click on that link, it will take you to a site that looks like this. And the address of the site is at the top of the page there too. But this is a binomial probability calculator. So what you're going to type in is you're going to put P in the first box. Notice it says probability of success on a single trial. The number of trials is N, that goes in the second box, and then K goes in the third box. And the box directly underneath that, the 0.3087, was the same answer that we got on our calculator. So if you're doing homework or just working in class and there aren't enough calculators, that's another option for you to use so that you can still get the work done. All right, let's try another one. Example 2 says, kind of the same scenario with Drew Brees. If Brees attempts 5 passes, what is the probability he will complete 3 or 4 of them? So when we see the word or, we already know that that indicates that we are going to have to add. And so what we're going to do is we're going to calculate those two different probabilities, and then we're going to add them together. So I want to calculate the probability that he completes 3 passes. I already know because I calculated that in example number 1. So what I want to do is just calculate the probability that he completes 4 passes. So I'm going to set up here, n is 5, p is 0.7, k is going to be either 3 or 4. I'm going to calculate the probability that he completes 4 passes, which on the calculator, we would use that binomial PDF function, 5.74. That will give us a probability of 0.3602. So the probability that he completes either 3 or 4 passes would be the sum of those two individual probabilities. So our answer from number 1 plus the answer we just got, and that gives us a total probability of 0.6689. As you're taking notes today, if you ever need more time, be sure that you pause the video so you've got time to write things down. All right, example 3. Ted has a coin that is weighted so it lands showing heads 75% of the time. If he tosses 8 times, what is the probability that more than half the tosses will show heads? So in this case, we have 8 trials because he's tossing the coin 8 times. The probability of success would be 75% or 0.75. And it says more than half. Well, half of 8 tosses would be 4. More than 8 would be either 5, 6, 7, or 8 different times. So this one would be very time consuming with the formula because we'd have to calculate 4 separate probabilities and then add them together. But with a calculator shortcut, it goes much more quickly. So this would give us the probability of the coin showing heads 5 times. This one would give us the probability that the coin would show heads 6 times. This would be for 7 times. And this one would be for 8 times, right? So we do those 4 separate probabilities. Go ahead and add those together, and the total probability would be 0.8862. Example number 4, a tennis player makes 60% of his first serves. What is the probability that if he serves 5 times, he will miss at least 4 of them? This time we are defining success as missing the serve because that's what we're counting. He is attempting 5 serves. Now, the probability of success would be the probability that he misses the serve, which would be 40% or 0.4. And then we want to know the probability that he misses at least 4 of them. That would be 4 or 5. So again, we do 2 separate calculations and we add them. So this calculation would be the probability that he misses 4 of the serves. That's 0.0768. The probability that he misses 5 of the serves, that would be 0.0102. And since we're combining with or, we would add those two together for a grand total of 0.087. All right, example number 5. This is going to be the last one that we do because example 6 is very similar. So I'm just going to cut the video off after this example just to make it a little bit more manageable in length. A basketball player makes 80% of her free throws. Find the probability that if she attempts 5 free throws, she will make at least one of them. Here we're defining success as making a free throw. And in this case would be 5 because she's attempting 5 of them. The probability of success is 0.8. And then K, now notice it says at least 1, and she's attempting 5. So at least 1 means that she makes 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them. So you could actually do this problem in 2 different ways. One way is that you could calculate those 5 separate probabilities, which wouldn't be difficult. It would just be a little bit time consuming, and then you would add those together. Another way to look at this is to think about the fact that we are looking for all of the probabilities except for 0. And we know that if we add up all the probabilities in the sample space, the total should be 1. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do the faster way, which is I'm going to calculate this one. And then whatever that one is, I'm going to do 1 minus that answer, and that will tell me all of these added together. And we've used this approach before on some problems, so this should be somewhat familiar to you. So the probability that she makes 0 free throws we would do binomial PDF 5, comma, 0.8, comma, 0. And that gives us a probability of 3.2 times 10 to the negative fourth. That probability is so small that your calculator will give it to you in scientific notation. Now, if you just do 1 minus that answer, then the calculator will give you the probability of all those other ones added together, which would be 0.9997 if you round that off to 4 places. Now, you should get the same answer, plus or minus, due to rounding, if you do the 5 separate probabilities and add them together. All right, we're going to stop there for this lesson. At this point, you should get a copy of the 14.8 worksheet from the guest teacher if you haven't already. And please use the time remaining to complete that 14.8 assignment along with any other late assignments that you might have. Have a great day, guys.